Thank you so much for affording me this opportunity to express and state the life of priesthood and the life of celibacy. And I grew up in a Catholic family, paternal and maternal, so rooted, so deep in the Catholic faith. This is the only church that I was born in. Both parents are born in. Both parents have strong roots in the Catholic family. My mother is called Immaculate and my father is called Peter Michael. I'm sure by the names you can really see the root of where I'm coming from, to express the desire and perhaps the calling to become a priest. My paternal family comes from Tanda, Kwarusapi, and my father called Michael, was St. Michael's Kwadanji, and baptized then with the name Peter. He lived 100 meters away from an Anglican church, which had a primary school, but they were not allowed to attend there, nor to draw water from their well. Sekuri insisted that they should walk close to 3 to 5 kilometers to draw water from the communal well and to learn about 10 kilometers at a Catholic school just because it was Catholic. In the same way, my maternal family from Kwachikupo Kwamrewa, my maternal grandfather was so rooted. He wanted to be a priest, but then he never got the opportunity to even apply, but the desire was there. My father wanted to be a brother, Marist brother, but as he was just about to apply, then it was during the wartime, it was bombed. So in these two strong families, that's where I drew the inspiration to become a priest. I remember I never attended catechism at an early age because of the school I went to. Every weekend, sports were on my priority list. At a later age, I think just about around Form 5, though I had an encounter in primary school when we were asked in grade 4 by Miss Mtongi, my grade 4 teacher, express what you want to be. I just stated I want to be a priest, and I had no recollection until she said it on my day of ordination. But fast forward to around Form 5, my dad just said, so Pawanangwese, you're the one who hasn't received Holy Communion. It hit me hard, and I started going for catechism lessons, and I grew so deeply in love with the Lord, and from there I truly believe I was called. The desire to serve the Lord, the desire to serve the Lord, the desire to be in the realm of the Lord, that in itself inspired me, and I was so drawn into it. I was 19 years. I just completed my A-level, and I was waiting for the results when the intensity of the calling and the desire really took shape in my heart and in my sphere of knowledge, and also in my behavior. The calling to priesthood is a mystery. One cannot fully understand it. I was prompted by the desire. It was more or less like an infectious feeling to just want to be with the Lord. And I didn't fully understand it. I had the privilege of staying with Father Makusha, who had just celebrated his 50 years in priesthood. And he explained to me that even in his 50th year of priesthood, he does not fully understand the mystery. So at that particular time, I didn't want anything. I would wake up in the morning, I'll go to church, spend hours on end in the chapel, around the church, reciting the Holy Rosary, with other peers who had shown an interest in the parish, who wanted to become brothers, sisters, and priests. And so I didn't fully comprehend what I was getting myself into. But did I love what I was doing? Yes. Was I pushed? No, I wasn't. I was. I then got my A-level results, and then I applied for marketing management with UNISA. I only lived for that, and if I was told to stop doing anything for it, I would. And I did. I didn't finish my BCom marketing degree. I got an intermediate degree with them, and then I went straight to the seminary. Looking back to that moment with my current knowledge and experience, would I commit to the same? To be honest with you, I think I would. I think I would. I don't want to lie. I think I truly would. Do I fully now understand, now have a greater knowledge of what I'm getting myself involved in? I can't rush to say it's an exciting experience. I'll rush to say I would become a better person. And it still is, and I still rank it as a noble calling. So I think I would. When one commits to the life of priesthood, there are two things I need to clarify here. The first thing is this: the calling to priesthood entails you become one of the two. Either you become a religious priest or you become a diocesan priest. Under religious priests, there are those who are familiar with the following congregations: the Jesuits, the Franciscans, the Capuchins, the Marists, the Redemptorists, and many others. There are so many, close to over 200 types. Then there are the diocesans. These ones fall in line with the Archbishop. He is their superior. When one wants to become a Jesuit, his immediate superior is called a superior general. For diocesan priest, your immediate superior is the local ordinary, the Archbishop or the Bishop. And the religious have three vows: a vow of poverty, which means that they renounce everything. They don't own any property. They don't own any personal bank account. I will use my Muzukuru that you all know, Father Mukonori. He doesn't have a personal bank account. He has got a Jesuit account. If you see him with a bank account, it's an account either for the school that he's at or the community, the family that he stays with. If Sekuru Mukonori's father were to bequeath him a farm or a car, he takes it to the superior, then that car or that farm belongs to the Jesuits. This is why they are extremely wealthy, because nothing is particularly for someone. It belongs to them as a whole, as a family, as a unit. Then they have the vow of celibacy, which entails that they are and they cannot enjoy the right to matrimony, mchato. Then they have the vow of obedience, to listen to the superior, to allow the superior to tell them what to do, and without questioning, obey and do it. Diocesans, we have got two vows: the vow of celibacy and the promise to the bishop, promise to obey him, promise to listen to him. And I want you to understand and underline the word promise. And also the vow which is common to us all of celibacy. Diocesan priests do not have the vow of poverty. If Vamashamome gives me his farm or his car, they come to me. I can have a personal bank account. The day-to-day life of a clergy differs. For many religious priests, you can find them serving as dentists, as surgeons, as accountants, as lawyers, because they would have done that. Why would they find themselves in this practice? It's because in their training, before they do philosophy and after philosophy and theology, they can take any particular field of interest or one which is recommended to them by their superior. And so they find themselves engaging in some of the secular degrees or the worldly degrees. And by so saying secular and worldly, I'm not saying there's anything banal or evil in what they're doing, but they're just opposed to what we can call spiritual activities. So you find them that they'll be engaging in those activities. As a diocesan priest, my day was filled with waking up in the morning, going to Dominican convent to celebrate Mass for the sisters. And then I was a chaplain for the Dominican convent students. Thereafter, I would go into the media fraternity. The Archbishop had given me a privilege to go and study media studies. So I was the head of communication for the Archdiocese of Harare. And so I would then either edit a magazine or go through scripts that would then be put on the social media with pictures for the publications, for the Catholic publications. Then later on, I would perhaps go to the gym and socialize with my friends. And also I have a community that I belong to. I love watching football. I would then perhaps watch football or watch current affairs or binge on any of the series that I would love to see, that I'm abreast with what's going on in the media fraternity and also in the entertainment fraternity. And praying. Yes, being in the presence of the Lord. Celibacy is the gift given to the church by the Lord. It is a gift that enables one to detach from the right to matrimony and attach to the realm of the church and allow the individual to make a sacrifice, to allow the spirit of the church to permeate through them so that they can offer a service to the birth of the church. Jesus Christ said, there are those who will become celibates for the kingdom of God, for the love of it. Then there are those who it is imposed upon them by men. They are made eunuchs. And there are those that are born just like that. Celibacy is for those who make a sound decision. They make a choice, they make a sacrifice. It is within this sacrifice that the church finds its continual growth. It is also scriptural, and it is also sacramental. It is scriptural on the basis that Paul would go on to say that, look, I was married, but I found it that for me to serve the Lord way much more better, it's best that I do not get married, so that I wholly give myself to the church, to the service of the Lord. In the 16th century was a council. Before that council, Council of Trent, priests used to marry. Peter was married. Paul was married. Andrew was married. Mark was married. All the people that we know were married, save for a few who were chosen that they didn't want to for the kingdom of God. We had priests and bishops and popes who were married. And then in that council, the church made a decision that for those who would want to be priests within the Catholic Church in the Western Rite, they should make a choice and make a sacrifice that we don't get married. It was also pinned in the life of the church. Prior to that council I spoke of, there was so much abuse, so much nepotism, so much financial abuse, but largely so much nepotism. With one pope who had his children, he had named them bishops and cardinals. And when he would go for a visit, he would leave his daughter in charge of the whole entire church. And so practices such as these, the church then made a decision and in the 16th century, 15th, 16th century, in the 17th century, no one who would then become a priest, a brother or a sister, would be married, they then emphasized the service, the duty, the sacramental value of celibacy. Celibacy is also viewed as a way to emulate and to live the life of Jesus Christ, who chose to be celibate for the kingdom of God. He made this sound choice. It was not imposed on him. He made this choice. And the church likewise would like to follow its master. And it does not, this is why you find that priesthood is not, the church does not go and knock on people's doors to say, please give us your son or your daughter to become a priest or a sister, respectively. The church prays, and the community of believers offer to the church. And if they offer, there is a clear understanding between the laity and the demands of the church. And this is why, when they realize that one who has been pushed by mother, by father, by circumstances, by peers, by the school, by any factor, that priesthood is annulled, they are laicized. We had one Origen, wrote extensively, worked extensively. But when he died, it was realized that he had castrated himself. He was heading towards sainthood. And for that reason, he was not given the gift of sainthood, because it castrated himself. The church does not take people who are castrated, because then you won't be able to fast. You won't be able to retain. You won't be able to use that power. The seed to procreate is power. The seed to procreate, which we call sperms, is power. Perhaps maybe we don't understand that power. Or maybe we try to, but we don't clearly understand it. But even if you go even in a traditional setup, we had what we call mbonga. Men who had given themselves utterly for the service or for the ancestors. And even when they were going for sacred rituals, they would promote abstinence, a sexual fast, which then give them the spiritual, the moral, the physical rigor and vigor to serve. And in that light, the church emphasizes that. Buddhism also is in right track with that. I think in the Quran and the Holy Quran, and in many religions, the sexual retention is viewed as power. And the Catholic Church has created this discipline to favor celibacy. The Holy Mother Church will not retract from the point of celibacy. Regardless of so many people, regardless of so many scientific explanations, debates, social and moral, that are levied towards it, because it views that we took so long for us to be here. And yes, it understands that amongst those who serve the church and who have taken up celibacy, there are those who fall from the mark. And yet it is the desire, it is the will, it is the inclination, it is that sacrifice that the church promotes. Saint Pope John Paul II, at one point in time, people thought that he would say, yes, now priests can get married. But he said, the Lord himself gave himself to the Father. And it was not easy. And it is not easy, given the current trend of how sex is sold all over, how sex is sold at every point you see. We are living in a very, in quote, sexified world, where it is sold in magazines, we see it in movies. If it's not soft porn or even hard porn of half-naked women advertising a car, advertising a brand of cigarettes or cigars, if we don't see them advertising even an aeroplane, if you don't see them everywhere we are, it is blasted in every direction that we look at, which makes it very complicated. But it is that sacrifice that the church looks at. It is that sacrifice that the church desires. Saint Barnabas once said that even if we have 2 priests that remain wholly committed to the service of the Lord and to celibacy, it is better than having 100 who want to aspire to be married priests. So it is in this situation that the church will not give in. At some point in my life, I really stayed in the straight lane. At some point in my life, I deviated. At some point in my life, I really saw this as a possibility, a way that I can live right up until the end of my life. At some point in life, I saw it as not as a possibility. Taking a fall was never ever on my deck of cards, nor on my score sheet. It was far from it. But at some point in my life, I saw myself falling away from that mark. It's something that is very hard to even contemplate and think. How I deviated from the main path, the main course, the main objective into something else. I do not rush to quickly blame the spirit. I do not rush to quickly attest to acculturation of this. But I believe that in my intelligence, in my spirituality, some way hormones hijacked it and I deviated from the plan. And there is no joy in having to tell your father and your people and your friends that you have taken this way of life, which they highly emulate and which they hold at a greater pedestal, and to realize that you have fallen from there. Celibacy is indeed a noble calling, and it is filled with so much grace. But I found myself deviating from it. I found myself losing in that battle. I found myself not being able to fulfill the statutes of celibacy. And I'm giving this testimony of my experience. Now I know that you may know Father so-and-so or Sister so-and-so. I believe that they have their own testimony and they have their own reasons and they have their own situations and context that has made them in the situation. But I'm giving you my personal testimony of what truly transpired. You know, there are times when you need human. I wanted to say that I got in when I was very young. It's like someone who's getting married at 19. Then we then go to ordination. That's 3 August 2013. But on the 4th of September 2004, that's when I went in the seminary. The seminary is a beautiful place to live in, but sometimes it reads you off reality. The seminary is like a boarding school, like a college, like a university. But think of a university where you're only 70. Think of a university where there are no women, girls to say, students that you learn with. We would have ancillary stuff and maybe 1 or 2 nuns would come and lecture us in spirituality and so forth. and would spend the whole day with boys think of it as a boarding school. The joy, the camaraderie, but also you forget the protection of it. Yes, would then break like any university and would go home for personal experience. It's about 2 months, so to speak, then would come back. The university program of 4 or 5 months semester and then two months break and then you come again is the very same program that the seminary follows. Now I'm reflecting. I'm seeing that I was protected. When I was ordained on the 3rd of August 2013, my assignment was to go to work in All Souls Mutoko. It's a beautiful place. I love it. I've always loved working in the rural outskirts. But then some things start to speak to you. You start to see things differently. Those walls of the seminar are no longer there. The fact that you go to university, we're the privilege to go into the University of Zimbabwe from Chishawasha Seminary to do honors in religious studies, and we also did seminary studies at the seminary. Would go in our school bus, go as boys, learn there. Of course, now we had female students, but come back in the confines of the seminary, a holy seatbed. Now you find yourself driving your car to Makora, driving your car to Makara, perhaps with someone, because you don't know the place and you don't know exactly which village you're supposed to go to and celebrate funeral mass or birthday mass or wedding. And they send you a very beautiful young lady. And I'm not baba commission. Now it is completely different. I'm just putting in the context. It's completely different. In the seminary, we used to organize ourselves, do things by ourselves. We used to work. The liturgy was filled with boys. And for those who are Catholics, I urge you to go to the seminary for Sunday masses one time in your life, or even to Arupe College, and listen to how the liturgy flows. We would sing our hearts out because it's a gift, and we knew what we were doing. Now you have a young lady who now comes in as your liturgist, as your choir mistress, and the whole thing is different. It's as if you're now starstruck. You're not starstruck per se, but then when you reflect about it, it's different. And similarly, we used to go to this and that, play football, do this and that. It's like a proper university setup. Now you are in a parish, affluent or rural. You've done your work, you go home. As I said, I'm giving you a testimony. And then you have a call when you're all now refreshed, when you've eaten and you are relaxed, watching football or current affairs, BBC or Sky, whatever you're watching or series. And then you get a call from a very soothing voice, sweet voice, because God has created the female counterpart as such. And they start to give you words of affirmation and affection. Oh, the way you preached, the way you did this. My relatives were happy. My cousins from abroad were stunned. The way you preached, the way you talked to us, the way you buried this and that. Oh, it was amazing. You have never heard these words because the seminary was enveloping you from all this, and now you're exposed. And you asked me earlier, and I was reflecting on, would I want to go back? Would I want to if things were to be changed, would I still want to be celebrant as a priest? And I said yes, because I was thinking, what would I be watchful for, vigilant for? And it's exactly this. Priesthood is a very beautiful calling, a very good life. But I think I was not prepared and equipped for some of the things that I encountered. Is this calling? Is this calling? Do you face challenges in this calling? I take it from was taking the forever on your cards. Admin, you'd have people, females who would call you. And these are the people that we work with. The role in life of a priest in a community is to shelter the community members, is to be there for the community members, is to show direction to the community members. We have female members would come to us and they would want us to be father figures to their children, male children, or even female children. Not in any erotic way, nor in any now you're my husband kind of way. But you have become that role model in a community that they can point their children and say, aha, look at him, look at him. Is it admirable? Yes, it is. In a social setup, we would do that. Itasa teacher ningi, sa headmaster ningi, itasa ningi. We have models, role models in our community that would want our children to emulate, which is very good. But at one point in time, I was not prepared for these things. I was not. I was overwhelmed. It came as a psychological shock to me. That would they trust me to this extent? And truth be told, maybe it is in that context of trust that I failed really to gauge, to understand, to see, to evaluate my role, her role, their roles, and what I am supposed to do. And it would end up in something else. And you would have encounters where someone really come to you. I will share with you on one personal encounter where I had done a particular mass, funeral mass for an elderly man who had died, and it took, I think, about 2 weeks, because one daughter was in a foreign land overseas, so for her to get cash to come back to Zim and bury an old man, it took a couple of days. And you know the social pressure. No, let's wait. If there is a desire for the children to be there, let's wait. We can wait. And I was constantly saying mass at the house every day, which is not the norm, because when someone dies, it's supposed to be 3 masses. But I said, if I'm going there, which is within the context of our custom, then I'll then say mass. So we had mass every day for the 2 weeks. And when she came, mass, and then I hadn't met her. You just hi, this is, and then this rushed introduction, and then she got my number. She called me from overseas, and she thanked me, and upon that, she said, I'm attracted to you. I was attracted to you. I heard about what you were doing. In fact, I used to hear about you from my old man when he was there, and people at home, and they were just saying, okay, at least the priest who's helping you. Now that when I came, I saw you, and I was touched by your sermon and all these things. And she actually proposed to say that, can we have a relationship? Even if the better that I'm even far, I just want that consolation, to call you, to talk to you, to be emotional to you. What I'm trying to say is this. There are times when the call to celibacy is greatly challenged, and you can fight and overcome. In my context, there were times when I could not overcome. My hormones overcame me, and I fell. I would go for confession and soldier on. But it is like a wrecking ball. on war. It swings, it hits. It does not destroy. It swings again, it hits. It does not destroy. But what is it doing? Eventually it will destroy. What is it doing? It's making it weak. What is it doing? It's making it unable to stand strong and erect. And eventually, after so much hitting and pounding and wrecking, the wall will fall. So I would also want to add on celibacy that we often see celibacy as no to marriage, no to sexual encounters, no to children, no to this. But then we don't see the flip side of it. Celibacy is also a yes. It's a yes to Jesus Christ. It's a yes, I will follow you. It's a yes, I want to love you. Jesus is seen as the head. It's a yes, I want to be within the confines of the spiritual spousehood of the church. Yes, I want to be within the confines of procreating spiritually within the church. It's not always a no to, but it's more so a yes to what I would want to achieve, what I would want to, I want to participate in the construction of the people of God. The protective measures are much more in priestly peer chats. I think in our ghetto street lingo we say kusimbi sana. I'll be honest with you. In my 9 years of serving as priest in the priesthood fraternity, we always we know what is needed and what is required of our service and our persona. One thing that I need to emphasize is this. There's a difference between Mr. John and Father Reki. Mr. John can be my parish chairman. Mr. John could have possibly have 2 children out of wedlock. Mr. John possibly is having a small house, which is known in the community. Yet Mr. John comes to church, Mr. John serves at church, Mr. John does everything perfectly at church. He still remains Mr. John, married to Mrs. John with their 3 children. And as much as he falls and falters, I'm to believe these are the packs, the things that come with the sacrament of matrimony, mchatu. But it can't be for Father Reki. Father Reki can't do anything other than what is expected of him. The moment he does that, there are certain repercussions, certain suspensions, certain ways to deal with the situation so that the face of the church is maintained, the charism of the church is maintained. We are soldiers in a war where we are not allowed to deviate, not even one bit. We can't. Yet Mr. John can do as much as he can. And he comes, confesses, and we soldier on. As much as he has fallen, we know our brothers, we know our fathers, we know our community members who go to church, be it Catholic or any other church. And we know the shenanigans that they do, some which are open within the community. Yet we love them more and we don't love them less, and we are willing to understand and we're willing to support them. But for the Catholic clergy, just one mistake, just one way, just one slip, then it's done and it's over. The mechanism that can be used to protect the priest, it's as I've stated, and as much as we have so many workshops And as much as we have so many things that we can do, we cannot, in as much as we have protective measures, which are personal, depending on the charism, depending on the gifts, depending on the persona of the individual, the priest, the brother, or the sister. After seminary life, then you are put in a jungle. And in this ferocious jungle, you now need to think and act and behave as how you were taught. But some of the things that you were taught, you're not prepared for them because they were not within the content of what you were taught. So things that you're finding out. And your reference book or your reference point of view does not have these things. The whole aspect of celibacy and sex, it is psychological, it is emotional, and it is spiritual. It is psychological, it is emotional, and it is spiritual. And these three components, they move hand in glove, and they cannot be separated. Counseling sessions, they do help. Counseling sessions are there to assist. They minimize. I never went for a counseling session because, remember, I am an African, a black, a Zimbabwean priest. And you know how we are not so much for counseling. And as much as we discuss and talk with senior priests, how often do we sit and discuss and talk about this? And how much and how many are courageous to open up as I'm doing right now? Admin, I've realized something. That in my demise, in what happened to my life, I had a near suicide situation. I'm speaking to you and I'm confessing because I had a Damascus experience, and I thank the Lord because the Lord loves me, and this is one thing that no one can take away from me, and I've come to understand it. This is one thing that I take away. This is one thing that I've totally understood. And my testimony and my word and my encouragement to fellow brother priests is that be vigilant. There's a verse that says, be vigilant. The devil is prowling around like a roaring lion, willing to devour. I said it is psychological, physical, it is emotional, and it is spiritual. And as much as we may protect ourselves, create measures, I will not answer any call after 9 p.m. I will not allow a woman to drive to be driven by me in the front seat. I will not talk to women. I know so many clergy, I know so many sisters, brothers, I know so many parishes that have put in mechanisms. That's the physical aspect. But we go to the emotional aspect. Perhaps the priest is lonely. There were times when I felt so lonely. After working so hard, I go home, I take a bath, I relax. It is 8 p.m. I have no one to talk to. I'm all lonely. And that loneliness, it can be dangerous. Ask any priest, they'll tell you that there are moments of loneliness. These things happen in life. Even married people, there are times when you're married to Jane or you're married to John, but in that marital context, you feel so lonely. And the danger, perhaps, of not noticing that you're lonely. Perhaps this is what happened to me. I didn't notice that I was lonely. And perhaps I was so busy. Admin, I had so many portfolios that were under my belt, that I was doing, so many projects I was doing, and I did them diligently, but emotionally I forgot that I was lonely. Emotionally I forgot that in as much as I'm a priest, I have a human body. I forgot that in as much as I'm a priest who's sacramentally subscribing to the vow of celibacy, I forgot that I have hormones. I forgot that I'm a full human being. I forgot that hormones can take control. On paper, I know, but then emotionally, I forgot. Worse off spiritually. The devil doesn't want anything good. You're a good CEO, you think the devil likes that. You're a good husband, you're a good father, you're a good houseman. You think the devil likes that. I'll tell you one thing. The first institution that is bombarded by the devil is the institution of the family. I prayed for men who are married. I prayed for females who are married. I prayed for them. I prayed for them because I love them. The sacrament of matrimony is something that I adore and something that I abhor, because I am a recipient. I come from there. I come from Peter and Emma, who were high school sweethearts at Visitation Makumbi, which is a Catholic school. That's where my mom and my dad met. I come from there. I hail from there. I hail from people. We love one another. So I understand. I come from a family that is in love. I love my siblings. I love them all. I love my dad. May my mom rest in peace, who passed away in 1998. I loved her. She was a disciplinarian, very strict woman, but I now see it's coming out what she did in me. She was bringing me up, the strictness, the way that she was grooming me. She groomed me. My mother groomed me. I love them, and I'm using this word love because it is one word that priests never hear. And when they hear it, and when I heard it, and when it was said unto me, it started a fire within me. Because I'll be honest with you, having said all this, it is this one word which Jesus said to his disciples that they didn't understand. It is one word that we do not use often, even amongst ourselves. As African, as black, as Zimbabwean men, you can't say to another man, I love you. It is anathema. But when someone tells you those words, it's not something. Is it genuine? Is it real? Is it true love? Qui veritas. These are the words that Pontius Pilate asked Jesus. What is the truth? Qui veritas. What is the truth? And Jesus didn't respond because he is the truth. So my advice to those who are in the priestly fraternity, look at Jesus. Do not put your eyes off Jesus. Now the spiritual aspect is that Lucifer is prowling around, killing families. He's destroying that, and he knows he has it in his pocket. Now he's going to the priestly fraternity, and once he's done with that, he's done with the growth of the church. And when I'm in church, I'm not speaking of the Catholic Church. I mean the body of believers. That is the church, the body of people who believe. There are so many divorces in our society. I think in my priestly life, in a year, I'll do plus or minus 30 marriages. And it came with plus or minus 15 divorces. I'm not saying that in the shortest marriage I ever did was 5 months. I marry someone today. In 5 months, they're divorced. I was broken. I went to bed in tears because it's something I've been trained 9 years in the seminary. I understand the value of matrimony. John and Jane meet. They are given catechesis for 2 weeks, 2 months. But I did 9 years understanding the value of matrimony. And so I know what is in it. I know what God fused into marriage. I know what a man's capacity and potential is in marriage. I know that in marriage, when a father and a mother are together, the children, the seeds that are brought up, give rise to the kingdom of God. And that's a threat to Lucifer. Studies are made in America, studies are made in England, where a female-headed family is going for destruction unless the female is strong, ironclad strong. But if the father figure is not there are so many daddy issues associated with it. And I got sisters, I got cousins, females who are leading their families. And as much as we're uncles who try to chip in, we do our level best, because that family has been hard hit by the devil. And this is one aspect that we don't speak about. The presence of the devil. I spoke about the presence of Jesus, but we don't speak enough about the presence of the devil in the family. You wake up in the morning, you go to check up on your children as a father. If they've slept well, you pray for them in the morning in the core of your hearts. You bless them as they go to school. As you drive them to school, you chat with them. You listen to radio. You participate in radio quiz that's going on. You drop them at school. You go to work. You tell your peers you're going to take your children from school at a particular school run. You attend their sports. You are with them when the teachers call you for parents and teacher meetings. You are there. You are involved in your children's life. The devil doesn't want that. And what does he do? He creates a situation where you meet Sarah, where you meet Saru, and small doses, your presence in your children's life is being diminished and removed. You give yourself fully to your wife in small doses. Your presence to your spouse is removed. I've seen it. We have seen it. In a very similar vein, the devil doesn't want the success of a happy parish. What does he do? Strike the head and the children will scatter. Strike the priest and the children will scatter. Strike the priest and confusion will happen. You're waking up in the morning, you're creating your sermon, you love your parishioners, you're there when they bereave their dead, you're there when they celebrate their marriages with them, you're there when they celebrate achievements in life, you're there in their moments of sorrow, you are there in their moments of illness, you visit them to hospital, you are there even when they tell you, Father, my child is participating at school, rugby, cricket, tennis, and so forth. Can you please come? You are there to participate. Even when there's no accolade, you're with them when they are in their school activities because you are a pastor. The devil doesn't want that. And we forget that celibacy is physical, it's emotional, and it's spiritual. And when the head is hit, the children scatter. And we have pandemonium and great confusion. But we don't see that part. What do we see? We see Father so-and-so has fallen. Father Reki has fallen. We even celebrate his fall. But we forget one thing. When one of us falls, it's not his fall. It's our fall. Because as a body of Christians, sometimes I think we become hypocrites. There is never a person who cherishes the fall of any family. But I was stunned, how come there are celebrations, the fall of Father Reki? Then that's when I realized something, that hang on, I'm looking at things differently. This truly is a spiritual challenge. I have lost that battle. I have lost the battle, but I have not lost the war, and I'm still fighting. I have lost the battle, I admit, but I'm never going to lose this war. I got myself, my advice to other priests is this. I got myself too comfortable in the emotional aspect, with a woman who had her own marital issues. Deep they were. Sad indeed. It was not love, nor was it lust, but I guess it was pity on my part and lack of intelligence on my part, and I guess lack of prudence on my part. I greatly blame myself. I greatly put a dagger in my heart. And in that particular moment, you are not aware of the circumstance nor the consequences. And my spiritual and intellectual reason went on a holiday. And it landed me in a situation where my local ordinary, my archbishop, called me. And he said that this is where we are. In order for me to keep the sanctity of the church, of my local church, let's pray together. It is in this context of prayer that I went to him in a series of, I think it was 3 weeks. I would meet him after 2-3 days. We're praying together, talking and trying to find out. And these were my words. I say to him, Sekuru, I love the church. There's nothing that the church has ever done to me, but the church has elevated me in every regard. And for the love of the church, allow me to go home and reflect and reset. And he wrote a letter and he said, I regret to inform you that our brother, Father Tendai Reki has stated that he wants to go home and reflect on his vocation and his calling. In the meantime, I have taken the faculties, which means the power, faculty is power, the faculty of all the sacraments. The sacraments in the church, the sacrament to baptize, the sacrament to hear confession, the sacrament to administer weddings, the sacrament to celebrate Holy Mass. The sacraments, I have taken the faculties in his time of reflection, which I'm still within the confines of this reflection. It was a very emotional moment. I'll be honest with you. I've never experienced this. I slept and I was so stressed. I couldn't believe that this is where I am. The Minister of Information had called me months earlier. They wanted me to be in the Broadcasting Association of Zimbabwe. The PEMSEC and the minister had called me. Rome had called me. I was about to establish the first radio station in Zimbabwe called Radio Maria. I just had my master's in media and social studies earmarked for a PhD. I was the digital director of communications, the whole of Africa, all Catholics in Africa. There's a board in Africa, Asia, Americas, Europe, and Australia's. I was within the top 20 communicators in the whole 1+5, close to 2 billion Catholics. I was the incoming president elect for Harare Dawn Rotary. There's so many things that I would have given to the life of the church. The next steps from November 2021, I remember waking up at 4 a.m. the whole 2 weeks, I would sleep and I was sweating. Anyone who knows this, they will tell you that you are deeply stressed and depressed. But I would not allow, something within me could not just allow just to go. I've had encounters of my fellow priests who committed suicide. And I'm being open to you and honest on this platform because you are brothers and you are sisters to me, and I'm open to share with you. I had 5-6 priests in my class alone who committed suicide. I was now stationed in I'm living in Demaseke, in the village. Yes, from Roseville, which I had stated that this is the best parish in Zimbabwe. And we're talking about Zimbabwe, we're talking about SADC, because in our region, Zimbabwe stands very high in terms of its number of Catholicism and participation of Catholics. From Simon Sura House in town, now I find myself in Seke. I used to have a podcast and a WhatsApp platform where I would preach to 50,000 people every morning and every evening. Now I cannot. I'm faced with road runners, goats, pigs, tomatoes, veggies, and villagers. And now as I am there, I was tempted to commit suicide. I woke up at 4 a.m. This is on the 15th of December 2021. I went into a shade. As I was walking there, I took the pesticide that we use, Roga, and I wanted to take my life. And I had a Damascus experience. I felt the light and the word of the Lord say to me, Saka, Reki, where you used to preach to multitudes of people. You were almost, you were known even on the Pope's desk, your name is there. On His Excellence's desk in your country, your name is there. His ministers know you. His people know you. You are known. Now that you are nothing, you want to take your life. Now that you are nothing, I have stripped you for a reason. Seek that reason. And ladies and gentlemen, this is where I am. I may have done so much harm. But I believe that there is so much, plenty plus of what the Lord has in store for me. I'm seeking that reason. I went to Rwanda and I saw someone who had a vision. So she's a visionary. She saw the vision of Our Lady Mary. And I say to her, pray for me so that I die as a priest. I had the privilege to go to St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. I went to my patron saint, Pope John Paul II's grave, and I uttered a prayer. I want to die as a priest. Every day when I recite the rosary to Our Lady, I say, I want to die as a priest. There are so many things that I've learned, that I've known, that I've accepted. And on that day, the 15th of December, that light showed me, Saka, what was there because I was just chino. You did this for people. You never did anything for me. Seek the reason. And I'm seeking it. And I will attain it. I'm still seeking it. Human life is a mystery. And I'm still attaining it. The goodness of why we hold on this life is that we search for that mystery. We seek that mystery. And the Lord gives it to us in drips and drabs. And as much as I've been bruised, and as much as I've been brushed, there are some things that I'm seeking. And by God's name, I will attain them. Admin, when a priest or sister falls on celibacy, as I've stated that, because of the pedophile experience in America and how much the church has lost in terms of numbers, in terms of finances, in terms of credibility, Rome has taken a stern stance. Any word that is deemed as a scandal, the parties involved, if they are priests, should relinquish, it should be investigated, it should be reflected upon, it should be seen. So in the time being, whilst that is being done, they should be relieved from their ministry. Hence my situation. Where am I now in my vocation? With regards to the sacramental aspect of the administration of sacraments within the Catholic Church, I'm nowhere. But with regards to the calling and the understanding of Jesus Christ, I am so close to him as a disciple more than before. My prayers are no longer in words, they are in emotion with the Lord. Deep-rooted feeling. My prayers, my understanding of the Lord are no longer in that I am this father, I am this person, but now I am nobody. But this is where the Lord has brought me closer to him. It's like I move around and have I feel like I'm having a conversation with the Lord. And some of these things I'm saying, but why did you tell me this then? Why did you show me this then? Why did you strengthen me then? This then? I become like that story where one person said, it's a story that has always been told, that a man had died and he had gone to heaven. And the Lord was now showing him his life. There were two sets of footprints that were journeying. These are the days when this man thought that everything was happy, and he remembered and he recalled the days of ordination, the days of saying I want to be priest, the days of this and that, the days of being called by bars, the days of the Rome calling you, giving you this opportunity to become this. These were the days when I saw two sets of footprints. Then it also came that I now saw one set of footsteps. And the story goes, the man asked, Lord, this is when you had left me. And the Lord laughed and said, no, I didn't leave you. The footsteps you are seeing are not yours, they are mine. You see them, that they've become deeper. You think that you were alone. No, I was carrying you on my back, and you were so heavy because you had no strength. So I had put you on my back. The footsteps you see are mine, they are not yours. These are the dark clouds, the dark days in my life. The Lord is carrying me, and I'm still destined for greatness. Battles I have lost, the war I have not lost, challenges I've encountered, but it has made me cleverer. Situations I've encountered, depression I have, almost committed suicide, but the Lord spoke to me and said, so are you sure this is what you want to do? When the whole world was clapping for you, now there's no one clapping for you. Hang on, young man, there's more to see, there's more to do. And that's where I am. Admin, the lessons that I've learned are so many. I think every day is a learning curve when I reflect. On a human person level, I've truly learned that I am truly human. It's not something that is written down. I now believe that I am truly human. I'm a human being. I'm not a tool, I'm not an artifact, I'm not an object, I'm a human person. And at one point in time, I saw myself as a tool, as a servant of the Lord. I'm a tool for evangelization, but I never saw myself as a human person. And so I think that's when the crux of the demise began. But I now see myself as a human person, not as a tool, not as an object. I see myself as a person who can get tired, who's emotional, who's vested with emotions of pain, anger, and even sexuality. And I've realized that. I've got weaknesses. I've realized that. And it's no longer like a superfluous thing that this and that. I've got human weaknesses, and by those human weaknesses, what do I do with them? It doesn't end there. I need to overcome them. I need to work on them. Not only to pray for them, but also to work on them. Not only working, not only to say that I need to be spiritual about them, but also to be mindful of them and to reflect on them. Secondly, on the human level, I've realized one thing, and I've learned one thing, that I'm not going to be defined by my weaknesses, by my failures. That's not how I'm defined. When they call out my citation, it should never be about my weaknesses. No, even by the thing that I've done wrong, but by the multitude of talent that God has given me, that my family has bestowed onto me, that by nature I have accrued. On a spiritual level, admin, I used to read the Bible. Characters of Abraham, characters of David, characters of Solomon, characters of Joseph, characters of Jesus, characters of Paul. These biblical characters, I'm on them. And even some characters that are highly emulated, people like Thomas Edison, people like Steve Jobs, people like Chaminuka, who I fall in the lineage, in the family of Chaminuka, Taspamira Wekudungwiza, Nehanda. You see, the whole array of the goodness of what I've come to believe is that God loves his people regardless of who they are, where they are, because he created them, fashioned them in his likeness, regardless of race, regardless of creed, regardless of color. And I've come to accept that. And all these characters, I see them as peers, not as characters on a paper. I identify with King David, who lusted for Bathsheba. I identify with Joseph, who was put in a pit by his brothers, who found himself in a pit but was restored to be the prime minister. I identify with Chaminuka, who loved nature, who loved his people, who was a martyr when Lobengula wanted to kill him so that he would not kill his people. I identify with that. I identify with these characters, not on paper. These are the lessons I am now drawing. And I identify on a philosophical level with pain, with anger. I identify with it because these are attributes and values that we don't speak about. We speak about success. We speak about fortitude. We speak about charity, but we don't speak about pain. We don't speak about mental health. I almost ended my life. So these are the things that I've now come to live with comfortably and not have any qualms with it. So I identify with that. I do identify with that. And I've learned that. My career plan is to be a witness. I'm a disciple first and foremost, a disciple of values. Admin, I say this when I was asked in the seminary. I say this and I continue to say this. I once said that my word should not end only in the ears of Catholics. And I'm happy that even when I was preaching, even when I was teaching, it went beyond Catholics. I had people from SDA who are known to stand and criticize Catholics. I have people from the Pentecostal fraternity, from the Watchtower fraternity, who are known to militate against Catholics, who came to me and say, your word is deep. But I want to go beyond that. I say that United Nations, the center stage of humanity that holds all nations together, regardless of your tribe, regardless of your race, regardless of your nationality, regardless of what you believe in. I want to speak there because my story Jesus went to the disciples. He became part of them. And the disciples did not say anything other than what touched them about Jesus. I have a story to tell about the things that happened in my life. I have a story to tell, and that story I want it to be heard by the young, by the old, by black, by whites, by Orientals, by people with and those without, because it should inspire people. The Holy Writ, a book that speaks of a testimony of a man who lived for 33 years, 3 years of ministry, is filled with so much inspiration, and I want my life to mirror him, to speak to people in my context. My life is a life of failure, recognizing it and doing something about it. I was in the context of people who would say that, in our context, we'd never do it in Mvana. I was in the context of women who failed, who were seen as failures. I want to identify with them and lift them up and be able to tell them that your life is not identified by the weakness that happened during your time when you were young and this happened. I want to identify with men who are able to say that, look, I have a wife, but I have so many mistresses. I want to identify with them and say, but in these mistresses, I have children. What do? I am lost. I am dead. I am done. I'll tell them, you've lost just one battle. There's so many to fight that you overcome. I want to identify with CEOs who tell me that I too fall in the pit of lust, but what do? I want to identify with people, sports personalities who tell me that I want to overcome, but how do I become a celibate, even for 1 week, even for a couple of days, so that I attain the medal that I want? I want to identify with them. I want to speak to them. I want to motivate them, because I believe that's my position in this world. And if I fail to do that, let my right hand wither. If I fail to do that, let my right hand wither. But as much as I have breath within me, and as much as I have veins within me, that is what I will do. And to do I shall. I'll be honest with you. When I was working in Reki, I did 4 masses on a Sunday. Not so many priests would do that. I don't want to brag, but it taught me something. Mass 8 a.m. kwa Besa. Mass 9:30 kwa Jonas, kwa Mandabombe. Mass 10:30 Kudema. Mass 12 p.m. Sekematerera. Each of these masses were different sermons. Each mass had a different sermon. I got boys, Kenny and Fanas and Mr. Mshore, who would always join with me. They would never hear the same sermon. It was different. I had 4 different masses. When I worked in Sanyat, I called it the deep end of the diocese. I grew up in Warren Park. I learned at Ellis Robbins. I learned at Trust Academy, one of the pioneering colleges in town. I learned at Spaces College, the grandeur of colleges in town. I learned there. And when I was there, you can imagine, I went to UNISA University of Zimbabwe. I learned myself and found myself in Sanyat, where the parish had 8 people. 8 people. There was Gogo Mshuko in her 80s, Mwanawavo in his 60s, a teacher, Jompani, a primary school. Nitwa Zukuru, Tininga 3, 5, or 6. I said, I'm not going to do this. But the Lord said to me, and I always obey and listen to the Lord. I have this discernment of the Spirit where I hear the Lord speak to me in very short words. Preach to these 8 peoples, because I'll give you thousands. But if you undermine these 8 people, I'll never give you thousands. Use them as a training ground. I was a deacon then. This is 2012. I preached to those 8 people. One time, the priest I was staying with said to me, "Go, nay, Reverend, room stadium. Why the 8 theater?" I was shouting. I was taking my life out for those 8 people. And I moved from that, the deep end, to the best parish in the archdiocese. The Lord, Rhodsville, the Lord has not forsaken me. So that's what I would do. Thank you, admin. Thank you so much for giving me this platform. I took the courage. It took me much to reflect if I would be able to come on this platform, but I did it because I want to touch people's lives through my life and testimony. And you gave me this platform to do so, and I thank you heartily. And for the misgivings, for the wrong things that I've done, I say mea culpa, mea culpa, mea maxima culpa. For the people that held me in high esteem and I failed them. For the people who see me, I am an achiever and I am a believer, and I'm starting something that I need you to journey with me so that you see the success of humanity. And I believe in everyone. I know I'm a Catholic priest, but I believe in believers, whether you're Methodist, Anglican, Presbyterian, Pentecostal, Traditionalist, Buddhist, Muslim. We are one people, and it is through this belief that is gotten us where we are. And I pray that the Lord will always shine upon us. Whichever Lord you believe in, we are one people. And I just want to say thank you.